Hi, my name is Shawn Shaler. That's my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter. This is Avatar, The Last Podcasters. And today we are going to do the last, well, not the last ranking we're going to do for a while, but the last group that we're ranking in the series of ranking things. And that is the Nonbenders. And I'm actually going to flip to the right slide now. I know I'm forgetting something. There we go. Every Nonbender ranked today. This one's going to feel a little different because unlike the other benders where Chris did a magnificent job of like anyone who had a substantial or like noticeable bending role in one of our canon stories, right? It's not easy, but it makes more sense than like every single person who ever existed other than benders. Nah, we picked people with substantial roles in these stories, non-benders that displayed some sort of, I'm not going to call it combat ability, but combat and or wartime strategy and survival skill, like that person, the people that you want on your team as you're navigating the Avatar universe, particularly of the non-bender variety. And Chris, I think you did a marvelous job of cobbling together the 14 most likely that fit this group. But again, that's a weird one. So if you have any thoughts, if you have any glaring omissions or whatever, and you come at us on this one, it might feel more reasonable maybe than in our other lists. So, but Chris, before we get started, how are you? What are you up to? Anything exciting this week?
I am good. Nothing new from before.
We're recording, double recording week in advance here, right? So you've got like Schrodinger's Lakers going on right now. You don't know. Maybe they're alive. Right? Maybe they're dead.
No, they're in the West Conference Finals right now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. All right.
Facing the Denver Nuggets. They beat the Warriors in 7.
Okay. No, I can get on board, and they're going against the Nuggets. I can get on board with that. Well, and let's be honest, that would be a fun matchup to watch.
Not really.
Listen, right now.
I think they.
So you're obviously a Lakers fan, and I trend a little toward Boston in general, and I'm just gonna say like both of those series have had weirdly the start has been weird on both sides, from what we do know. But we'll see how it goes. And well, no, without further ado, just because gotta be honest, I'm exhausted. Let's get to our non-bender list, Chris.
Oh, I also want to say, so non-bending is it has non-bending in general is a lot more vague than the other bending principles. But in this list, taking into account fighting, weapons, agility, strategy, and special abilities.
I think I just keep going back to it's not like a one-on-one fight, but it is if I'm navigating through the Avatar universe, who do I want on my team? Who do I want at my side in the dangers of the Avatar universe? And that's the best way I've been able to wrap my mind around it personally. Let's start at number.
I do think a big factor of non-benders has to do with like their brains or their wisdom, but I'm not considering that now. That's a different list for a different time. That the top smartest people or the top wisest people,
best tacticians, best strategists. Separate lists.
And tacticians I consider it a little bit in this, but being a tactician can be any bender, right? Like because Azula is probably one of the best tacticians. Jianju, one of the best tacticians. So there'll be a list for that at some point in time in the future, but not before we get to deaths.
But not before we rank deaths. See, that sounds cool. That's a catchy YouTube title right there. For everyone's one. Top 5 deaths ranked. That just sounds good. Chris, number 14 is, and it sounds so bad he's so low, but again, non-bending is weird. Number 14 is the Duke.
The Duke. I've never seen him do a single thing except for one episode. And the Duke is, ironically enough, the small person part of the Freedom Fighters.
He has yet to show his utility, but does play a prominent role, unfortunately. Number 13.
The most notable thing that Duke does is give Toph his helmet so she can vomit in it.
Listen, there's a time and a place for having a vomit helmet handy. Can't say I've come across that personally. Number 13 is Pipsqueak. That's a nice segue. There's a common theme in this first couple.
Yeah, Pipsqueak from the Freedom Fighters, big old guy who looks like he beats crap out of people with a log.
He's the muscle. Every good team needs a little muscle. He's your offensive lineman. Number 12, again, sticking to a common theme, but finally getting to one where we have some like tangible on-screen utility examples. Number 12 is Longshot.
Yeah, man. Actually, man, comparing this to 11. Wait, why do I have Longshot this short? Maybe it should be.
No, I think it's right where it is. I think it just feels bad because there's a big jump between 13 and 12.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm thinking of maybe number 10 should come down.
Oh, well. I don't personally, man. It depends on. We'll talk about number 11, and I'll wrap my brain around what like you are counting and what you aren't counting. That might affect my answer.
Yeah, I think these 3, 12, 11, 10 can be moved around a little bit. But I'm not saying I want to move them around. I'm just saying they're very close. Anyway, Longshot, one of the best archers there is. Stoic, quiet guy. Not that has anything to do with the bending, but really great archer. Like able to hold his own with other benders at the same time.
Number 11 is interesting to me. Like I said, this will help me outline what you got in mind here. Number 11, you've got June, and it's in my mind. It's like she is an animal tamer of some degree, right? Like dangerous animal in her character, but you don't get to count the animal. You just get to note that she has some of that ability.
And the thing that's putting her like above Longshot in this case is that bar fight scene. She shows like a clear mastery of martial arts, in fluidity. Like she's beating the crap out of people, threw her drink up, caught it, and then sat down and drank it again. She has some skills to her.
I also think there's something here of like, I don't know how to word this. I want to say like my gut's like she's sort of running her own business, her own operation. Like she's got enough sort of strategy and know-how that she's kind of making her own way out there in the world. And there's got to be. You can go your own way. Go your own way. She's doing that on her own, whereas Longshot, it's not that Longshot is dumb. I'm just if you had to try to find and pick nits between them, which is obviously the whole idea of this list, I'd be like, hey, you know what? I bet June is probably a little bit more like wise or tactically sound independently. Yeah. That's all I'm trying to get at. Just splitting hairs, which that's kind of a funny Archer joke in its own right. Chris, you said number 12, 11, and 10 could all be interchangeable.
Yeah.
And
I'm about to hurt some feelings here.
I think you're right in the sense I agree with you. I also think you're right in that you're going to hurt some feelings. Number 10 is Sokka. Chris, explain yourself.
Sokka's not like the greatest fighter. And this is shown like throughout. Like he does show a little bit better abilities in the Fire Nation invasion. He's great with a boomerang. Gotta give him that.
I would like strategy boomerangs are cool, but boomerangs have kind of a limited utility. Like boomerangs are really cool, but I don't want to overstate the importance of it as a weapon.
You know, maybe I should put him higher. He did take out Combustion Man, although it seemed like a
fluke.
Like Longshot, I think Sokka could do that 1 out of 50 tries, and Longshot could do it 10 out of 10 tries.
Yeah, or at least 9 out of 10 or whatever.
Like Longshot would throw, he'll get the angle. He'll shoot an arrow in the sky, get another arrow, shoot that arrow so it can ricochet and then hit Combustion Man in the head.
Are you saying
I thought that would be deadly.
He's gonna Robin Hood it?
Yeah, exactly. I love that movie growing up so much.
It's an adorable movie.
Robin Hood and Little John walking through the forest, flashing for the birth of the yesterday. Anyway,
one of my favorite Disney movies, actually.
I loved it. It was probably my favorite Disney movie.
I love everything Robin Hood. Like, I liked that. I liked the Kevin Costner one. I like Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like, I just liked Robin Hood as a character. Very appealing.
Very great character, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Sokka, I think Sokka is right where he needs to be, and I don't want to overstate. Listen, if I just get bothered a little bit because if a boomerang works, if you actually hit something, it's probably not coming back.
It doesn't come back.
If it works, you get to use it once before.
It's not coming back.
It's not a good.
I'm not a boomerang expert, but if you throw something and it will come back to you if nothing impedes it, and you throw it and it hits something, it will not follow that same path.
Yeah, it's not going to come back. So really, peak Sokka needed to. We need more sword Sokka for him to be higher. Let's put it that way. But listen, this is not a soft list at the top. Sokka's got nothing to be ashamed of. But he makes a nice segue from number 10 to number 9, because number 9 is Hakoda.
Yeah, pretty much take Sokka, but improve everything by about 30%.
Sokka, but better.
That's just the way it is. Like, me at 15 my dad was about 30% stronger than me and better at me than at everything.
Okay, but what if you take your dad and put him in today's NBA, Chris? Put him in today's NBA. Sorry, throwback. No, you don't get the amount of evidence on screen as you do with Sokka, but I think it still makes sense to have Hakoda as number 9. Listen, it gives Sokka something to shoot for. Number 8, this is kind of interesting, at least I think people will find this interesting, is the Lieutenant.
Yeah, the Lieutenant. I don't know if he has a name.
I have no idea.
The Lieutenant from Legend of Korra, like, he has the 2 zappy sticks, Eskrima sticks, whatever they are. And, like, he's a very well-trained martial artist. Like, he got martial arts and using the weapon. But he's also very agile and stuff. He's pretty formidable with that.
You know what? Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, like, you'll only know him, I guess, for the weapons, but there's an underlying martial artistry and tactical knowledge and ability that, like, yeah, he has the weapons, but he's also good with them for a reason. Number 7, Chris, this is where we had, I think our best discussion is going to occur in the next 3, in 7, 6, 5. I think, personally. Number 7, we've got Asami.
Ooh, you know what? I might have, to your dismay, I might have number 6 too low. Anyway, number 7.
I hate that. No, I hate that so much.
Asami Sato, brilliant mind. Not really including that in here. But it does kind of go to, because she uses that to make weapons.
She makes weapons on the cuff. She improvises with technology in a way that, Chris, nobody else on this list can do.
True, yeah. This is probably the case where, yeah, like you said, technology is used the most. I mean, she uses motorcycles in fights sometimes.
So they're good. Just like June. Well, it's a little bit different, but I would say just like June, you don't get to count the motorcycle. But here's the thing, Chris. What's the difference between a weapon and a vehicle? A weapon is not part of a person, so how can we get to count the Lieutenant's weapons, but you don't get to count Asami's motorcycles? They're both inanimate objects.
I will say that the weapon is an extension of yourself.
So is a motorcycle. Why can't a motorcycle be an extension of yourself?
Like when Piandao is training Sokka in sword, he's like, the sword is an extension of yourself. I don't think of like a car as an extension of yourself.
I don't know.
Maybe in NASCAR.
Why can't it be an extension of yourself? Especially if you're a really good driver, I think you would think of it as. just kind of arbitrary lines. Like it's one thing to say you can't
count. It's a fair point.
You can't count pets. Like, okay, that's a different carbon-based life form, but what's the difference between a weaponized vehicle and just a weapon that you hold in your hand? Especially she probably made that motorcycle with her bare hands. But even if you can't count the motorcycle itself, I would say you can count her ability to craft technology on the fly in a way that's it's literally not replicable in the list that we have here. I suppose you could put her dad in the list if you wanted to.
Yeah, no. Although, see, part of me was thinking about including the mechs and stuff.
Okay.
Which I guess I didn't think about her dad, but her dad was in there. And I thought part of me was thinking about including Varric and Julie, because Julie's like the best one in the mech.
Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know. That felt a little bit. I don't know. I just didn't.
And let's be honest, man. Nonbenders is just going to be the hardest to like draw lines on anything. Like who to include, who not. What do they get? What don't they get?
Yeah.
It's just the toughest list. But that's why we got the exciting stuff out of the way with firebending previously.
Yeah. Asami is still like a very great martial artist, trained from an early age.
Is Varric a waterbender or is he just water tribe?
He's water tribe. He's not a waterbender.
Not a bender, okay. Because, I suppose you could make similar.
He's terrible at the mech suits, though.
He would be like between Pipsqueak and Longshot, I guess, in my mind, if you wanted to put him on this list.
Yeah.
You fit him between those two for his sort of improvisational speeches, his Jeff Winger talks.
He does have the most resources. We're trying to get away. It's like, oh yeah, we take my boat.
It's very handy, but I can see why you didn't include him in here. But again, let's keep with the theme here of at least I think number 765. I think is the most interesting conversation. Number 6, you've got Jet, who is ranked too high, if anything.
Absolutely not.
The lieutenant could take Jet. I'd pick the lieutenant over Jet. Just a kid who learned to grow up in some trees and only fought some other kids. One of them happened to be a reluctant avatar.
No, I'm taking Jet. Jet, his agility is probably up there with Ty Lee's agility.
That's funny. His agility didn't save him, did it? It's messed up because Ty Lee's still alive as far as I know.
Well, his agility around trees is second to none.
Okay, Spider-Man. Listen, I'll buy that argument then. I'm taking Asami over Jet any day. But if you take all the weapons and tech out of people's hands and you just plop a person there with nothing but their clothes, you can get me on Jet over Asami. I could live with that. Especially if you plop him in his natural habitat.
Jet also he beat Aang. That says a lot for a non-bender.
A reluctant Aang.
Still, Aang was trying to get away to save those people, and he couldn't get away from Jet.
Listen, you remember the
Jet stopped him.
You remember the episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they go into, they're on the island and they introduce the idea of like field-type bonuses? Right? That's what that reminds me of. It's like, Jet had a field-type bonus. That's garbage. Get him in the air, Chris. Let's see what he does in the open skies. Number 5, just while we're having the conversation, is May.
Yeah, one of the best projectiles. She's not agile. She can be quick at times. Volume check. She can be quick at times, but she is deadly with her shurikens and anything else.
I do
pointy, spiky thingies. I could see Jet above her though, which is why
no, but I can see Asami above her. So here we are. I do. I value range. I do value range. You can't put it in a vacuum because it's apples to oranges in a literal way. I tend to value range over melee, right? Because you literally get the first jump on people. So if you're good and you're ranged, it's hard to beat you. I'm absolutely not putting Jet over May. I would still argue. I would take Asami over both just for her technical prowess plus her martial artistry. But I
She
think
really doesn't have martial. She doesn't have hand-to-hand fighting.
But she's she's an athlete. She's skilled in her just
Yeah.
she does have some hand-to-hand combat. Sometimes it's aided by weapons, but there's I think kind of like the lieutenant, I think there's some level of martial artistry underneath there. I think maybe not. I might be overinterpreting.
Because she doesn't fight close at all. Like she's just long range.
That's fair.
I might switch it up and say that I think Jet's better than May. If you want to say that Asami is,
I'm gonna delete this notes.
If you want to say that Asami is 5 and Jet 6 and May 7, I'll be fine with that.
I would take Asami over either of those two in most in the widest range of circumstances. I would pick Asami over those two. That is my take. But I think what it amounts to, though, is I think that 3, everything else, falls into order in a much sort of cleaner and obvious way from here on up. I think those 3 create the most interesting conversation. Tell us what you think. Give us your order on the whole thing, of course, but that 5, 6, 7. Tell us what we're wrong about. What are we supposed to be including or excluding? Very interested to know. Number 4, I'm glad you found the name because it's a cool name, is the Yuyan archer Jujinta, specifically. So Jujinta from the Yangchen novel. Other Yuyan archers, you can say are represented en masse underneath, but Jujinta specifically.
Yeah, probably the greatest archer we see. Although I could have named that one archer that Pharaoh Ozai hires an archer to kill Yakim, I think. But I would take Jujinta over that because I've seen Jujinta in high pressure situations and able to do some impossible stuff with a bow and arrow. Really, archery is such a freaking great equalizer.
It is.
And yeah, so he's the best we see. He has to be this high.
If you wanted to pick nits between, Yuyan archers, that would be fine. But I think literally any Yuyan archer, if they ever earned that title, I'd probably leave them in this place almost regardless. But Jujinta's got a cool name, and he has sort of the coolest story that we are aware of from that group.
Yeah. And Longshot to me wouldn't make the Yuyan archers. Even though he's a great freaking archer, he would barely not make them.
The background isn't there. The education from day one, it's not his fault. It just
they were going down mountainsides, at breakneck speeds, aiming at Aang, who is one of the most evasive people, and together they called him.
Aang might be in that moment the most evasive, in that time, in that moment, the most evasive thing on the planet. And yeah, that's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic things, Chris, I love the number 3 pick. Huge fan of Piandao.
Yeah, number 3 Piandao, master swordsmith. We see he's able to hold his own during Sozin's comment, which says a lot. He takes out several different Fire Nation soldiers. There's a story about him that is, oh man, I wish I could look it up. You talk for a while.
I would just say that I know that we're making some implication here about they're going to about peak Piandao based on his current age and his current abilities, but I'm totally fine like that. The show goes out of its way. Bryan and Michael literally go out of their way to introduce a master swordsman into a show that probably would have been fine without it, and give him a substantial role, not just as a combatant himself, but also as a trainer, as a teacher. And I just place a high value on that. So maybe a little character bias here and a little implication that he was, I would have to assume almost undefeatable in his peak in his time. But no, I'm a big fan. He might be my second favorite Nonbender.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
A quick little thing about him. At the age of 10, came down to a Fire Nation boys camp where his natural talent with sword was recognized. I don't know where this information is coming from, but it's on the wiki. He further studies in the army where he developed a vicious and fearsome sword fighting style. Piandao fought many battles for the Fire Nation and won them all. However, what does it say? Dang, I hate when it's freaking changed. However, it's fine. Piandao lost his stage for war and became a person who felt about the Fire Nation. Anyway. There was some story about him that he like took on maybe like hundreds of people. It says like though retired from conflict, like he is still to this day considered the greatest swordsman in Fire Nation history.
He is the John Wick of swords.
Yeah.
Did he lose a dog along the way at all? Because that would really help my case.
In this story, which I have final words from, it says his prowess was best renowned from having never lost a single battle and defeating 100 Fire Nation soldiers so decisively that he was left in peace afterward. So did they go after him?
It sounds like there was more of them almost, and he just like mows down 100, and they're just like,
yeah,
okay, you go ahead and retire. You get out of the game, John Wick, and we're gonna not bother you ever again.
Yep, and that is Piandao. Yeah, yeah, that's very John Wickish.
It is very John Wick like. That's how I would interpret that at least. But, okay.
Also, side note about Piandao, he is probably the greatest swordsmith as well.
Which is something that's a skill you want to have on your squad. I think that's fair. Especially if Sokka's also on your team. Now you're armed for life. Chris, number 2 is...
Number 2.
Ty Lee.
Ty Lee. She is the first person we ever see chi blocking. She is a great hand-to-hand fighter. She is probably the most agile person. You see her running on rope. Like, what the heck? She's an acrobat. If she's someone's number 1, I would be like, yeah, sure, she's the best Nonbender there is. But she's not number 1. You can probably guess who number 1 is. But what more you have to say about Ty Lee?
I think that I probably will overcredit, but like she invented chi blocking. Like she's the anti-bender. You know what I mean? That's
yeah.
That alone, like she could even be not everything else that she is, and that would put her really, really high on the list for me, just by being like
she does. Man, maybe I don't have her high enough. Like, because she does easily take out a lot of benders. Like she easily took out Katara.
I mean, there's a little bit of an element of surprise there, but like
yeah.
Gosh, it's not that she invented that style, but she like the first to sort of weaponize it en masse. I don't know. That's really cool. Like, it's gonna catch everybody by surprise the first time, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Ty Lee here. That's a great pick. Chris, number 1, I don't think is going to be the most exciting in like a sexy way, but like it makes sense. Number 1 is Suki.
Yeah, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have let you do.
No, you're good. Suki, yeah, number 1, volume check. Number 1, Suki. She is like Ty Lee. She's a chi blocker, and she probably does it just as well as Ty Lee does. She's probably a little bit less agile than Ty Lee. I'll say if Ty Lee is like a 10 out of 10, then Suki is probably like a 9.2 out of 10, probably 9 out of 10 in terms of agility. She was able to like just run on the back of people's heads, and yeah, man, that one scene in the in the Boiling Rock episode. That was a great scene for both her and Ty Lee. It was a great episode for non-benders in that whole thing.
I mean, she may not be as agile as Ty Lee, but there again, let's not overrate agility compared to other, tactician, leadership, combat, armed.
Yes.
All those things got to factor in somewhere. Suki just feels like the complete non-bender package.
She's a great swordsman. She has fans for long-range attacks or defensive maneuvers. She wears armor, and she's a chi blocker, and she's agile. She really does have like the whole package for a non-bender.
It's not a jack of all trades. Like it's a king of all trades. Like she's the at worst. At worst, she's extremely good at all of these things and all these various elements.
Hand-to-hand fighting.
It's probably not the most interesting ending to the episode, but it's the right choice, no question.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm firmly in the Suki camp.
100%. Chris, final thoughts on the list overall? I think we'll get the most feedback on this list on, hey, why didn't you include this person? Our answer's probably going to be like,
I know, I'm probably missing...
Because we're tired. There's a big world out there. What do you want?
It is a big world full of a bunch of non-benders.
Turns out a lot of people can't bend. Yeah. And I'm sure they all have... we
didn't put the Cabbage Man up there.
We didn't put
Cabbage Man.
I'm sure they all have value. Absolutely. We didn't put pre-bending Zahir in there. You know what I mean?
We didn't. I mean, I don't have that. It's like that's a good.
I don't know if it's a good idea. It just sounded funny.
Yeah. I mean, we never see him, but if I had to put him somewhere on this list, it would probably be. You'd have to be better than Asami.
I would say that's kind of funny. Yeah, that feels right.
Yeah.
I would say that putting Julie and Varric on the list would make sense just from like character prevalence. But like, yeah, what's Varric gonna do other than like talk you out of a situation or have money? But Julie, you can convince me that like Julie has some kind of combat skill underlying there, and she's also like the actual brains of the operation more often than not. So like, we could have ranked Julie, I suppose.
She was very formidable in that mech suit. Like she took out like 3 mechs. She would have won the whole thing, the whole fight, if it wasn't for Varric getting himself kidnapped or taken hostage.
Give me Varric between Pipsqueak and Longshot, or between the Duke and Pipsqueak, right? One in that ballpark, and then give me Julie at 8. That's where I'm at with Julie.
No, I think that's too high for Julie.
Oh no.
I'll probably put her.
But I'm sure
right where Varric's at, but just way higher than Varric. Like they would be right there by each other, but it would be like a clear drop off.
That's going from your starters to your bench personnel, 100%. On this one more than any of the other ones. Tell us who we missed. Tell us why, and then, how. I don't know. How should we rank them with non-benders? What should we look at? It's arbitrary. It's kind of open-ended. But Chris, I look forward to doing more of these in the future. Maybe adjectives. We kind of talked to tactician. Is that adjective? Tactile? Tactical? I think tactical is an adjective.
Tactical. Yeah, tactical.
Tactical.
Yes, adjective.
Strategic.
Drives them out.
Strictly best martial artist, like all bending aside, things like that. That could be a lot of fun. But not before deaths. Doing deaths first. Oh gosh, I wish it was closer to Halloween. That'd be a fun tie-in. No, I don't. Don't wish your life away, people. Don't do that. But in the meantime, Chris, final thoughts.
You said that as if it was like a one of those wishes that you don't want to wish for. Like I don't know, one of those movies.
So I actually meant it to be kind of. In my head, it was sort of a joke because we were just talking about wishing that it were closer to Halloween so that we could talk about death. And so in my head, it was kind of a joke of like, don't wish your life away because we're talking about death. But it didn't land right even for my from my own brain. But that's all right. You swing and you miss sometimes. Chris, final thoughts on Nonbenders?
I think we'll have a list of all the benders, like the top 20 benders ranked.
Okay.
And from this list, I could see, man, if I take top 20,
give me 3 from this list, maybe 4, 3 or 4.
I think 4. Yeah.
Gosh, that's a lot of non-benders in a top 20
It is, right?
That's a lot.
Might do top 25.
Just to make me feel better about this choice, might have to.
Because even if we increase the top 25, I think that 4 would still be the only non-benders 4 that would get it.
And that still feels like, I know proportionately it's not quite a fifth, but like we're talking about non-benders in a bender world here. But listen,
yeah,
not being prejudiced, we're just discussing. Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be fun. Chris?
And then we'll do deaths. That's probably the next 2 weeks.
I can't wait to do deaths. I'm so stoked now. I'm gonna go upstairs, just lay in bed, and think about characters dying. Can't wait.
But lately, to go to sleep. So before to go to sleep, I would think about how to make Avatar into like a movie trilogy type of deal. Lately, I've been thinking about how to make Dragon Ball Z into like a 7 or 5 series of movies.
That sounds impossible.
Nah, that's very possible. And then I also think, what else have I been thinking about lately? Like random things to help me go to sleep that I'll never complete because it's all just in my head. I'm not writing any of this stuff down. It's just, all right, let me start back from movie 1. We'll start with some Dragon Ball stuff, just Goku versus Piccolo in the World Martial Arts Tournament. And you include all the Z fighters in it. Then movie 2 would be the Saiyan Saga. Introduce Raditz and Vegeta and Nappa, then anyway.
Sometimes after we play Yu-Gi-Oh!, I would fall asleep by trying to remember exact moves. So not like replanning or anything. I just like try to recount them in my head because it would put me to sleep. Like just like how much can I remember before I pass out? Which is tough because we'd play like 10 hands or whatever, like quick game. Most of the time we didn't make it.
Yeah.
I do too. But no, it'd put me asleep just trying to like work through something cyclical and familiar like that. So that's kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, this has been Avatar: The Last Podcasters. I'll put all the details down in the description, which I did a better job of saying this time. Please, if you care to spare us any kind of like or comment or review or whatever, we would really appreciate it. And otherwise, come back next week for deaths or top 25 somethings. Top 25. I almost said top 25 benders, and then I got nervous really fast. Top 25 living persons or something. Come back for that next week. Have a good one, everybody. Top 25 humans. Sounds like a community reference. Top 25 human beings.
We'll just start ranking the characters from
other
community.
shows. I mean,
let's see. Abed, would Abed be number 1?
Yeah.